So I thought I'd try my hand at this whole game review thing. I know I'm a little late to the party on this one, considering that Bloodborne came out in 2015, but since I'm doing a Let's Play of Bloodborne at the moment, it seems like it's a good a place as any to start. Bloodborne takes place in the city of Yharnam, a pre-industrial city seemingly based on London. I say based on, as I don't think that London ever had a plague that drove people insane or turned them into fucking werewolves. And unfortunately for the poor pathetic fuckers still living in Yharnam, insanity and werewolves are barely scratching the surface of their problems. Beyond the previously mentioned insane townsfolk and werewolves, there's also witches, cults, rival hunters, smashed-together abominations of nature, a corrupt church, not to mention the eldritch horrors from beyond the furthest reaches of time and space, that call the city home, and drive people insane just for looking at them. The city is, as we in academia refer to it, completely fucked. In fact, Yharnam is so laughably porked up the poop chute by various horrors from beyond humanity's ken that I'm half convinced some poor bastard built the city on top of Cthulhu's holiday home. All of which raises the ever-present question of why in the name of God our character chooses to remain in Yharnam, instead of fucking off through the nearest available exit like any sane person would. Putting our character's dubious life choices aside, there's a lot to like about Bloodborne, and it does do a bit to shake up the usual Dark Souls formula. Much like most From Software titles, almost everything in Bloodborne feeds back into gameplay, from its lore to its armor, weapons, and city design. The most glaring change to Dark Souls is in the combat, with Bloodborne favouring a far more kinetic and ruthlessly offensive combat style than Dark Souls' more measured and cautious approach. Helping keep Bloodborne's pace in combat frenzied and fast like a rabid honey badger is a health regen system that allows you to regain health if you cock-slap an enemy after being cock-slapped by them. And you better get cock-slapping because you don't get free health items at checkpoints. No, your health item, blood vials, are a limited resource, and if you run out, you'll need to go grind out some more, or buy them from the bath messages in the Hunter's Dream using Blood Echoes, Bloodborne's equivalent to souls. Another item you'll need to grind out, like you're a stripper on a pole, is bullets. Now, while grinding for things can be a major pain, they're also extremely necessary because your gun, another new addition to the Dark Souls formula, is what you use to riposte attacks, and since you can only carry 20 bullets at any one time, you're going to want to make every shot count, like a man with a low sperm count attempting to make his menopausal wife pregnant. The reason you want to master this new riposting mechanic is that doing so is one of only two ways to execute a visceral attack, which does extra damage, and if your enemy has cock-slapped you recently, will also restore all your health from said cock-slap. Another throbbing new idea to the Dark Souls formula are Bloodborne's trick weapons, that can get bigger, stronger, and longer upon command, as well as gain an increase to their penetrative power. The best part of this is it can be done mid-combo, allowing your weapon to go from puny stick to massive throbbing phallus in the blink of an eye. Wait, what was I talking about again? At any rate, back to visceral attacks. As I said earlier, there are two ways to perform them. The second is to hit a boss, or any enemy for that matter, from behind with a full-powered R2. This may cause them to stagger, allowing you a visceral attack, and since you're standing behind them, that attack takes the form of a thorough no-lube colonoscopy. Something your enemy should really thank you for, as hospitals and call girls charged with that sort of thing. Taken all together, Bloodborne's little tweaks to Dark Souls formula have really made the combat shine. However, that's the thing with From Software, isn't it? For every positive that I love, there comes a negative that makes me want to kick somebody's fucking teeth in. Let me get one of my most hated out of the way first, grinding. In addition to Blood Echoes, you will also find yourself grinding for blood vials and bullets. I have never played a game that was improved by grinding, and anyone who does say games are improved by grinding is going to hell for lying. However, while I hate grinding for blood vials with every fibre of my being, and would much rather have had a system like Dark Souls, where there is a set number of health items that you can increase by finding various key items around the game world, and that are also restored at checkpoints, I don't mind it as much for bullets. This is most likely because bullet scarcity plays into one of combat's many intricacies. For you see, if you run out of bullets, then you can hit up on the D-pad to spawn 5 bullets at the expense of health, meaning that during intense fights, usually bosses, you're constantly juggling if you need health or bullets more, adding another layer to the already superb combat. And this whole bullet versus health juggling act is something you need to get very good at very quickly, because any hunter boss or mini-boss practically requires you to have mastered riposting, and rival hunters are some of the hardest bosses in an already ball-shatteringly hard game. Looking at you, Gascoigne and Jura, you massive fucking cunts. And on the note of massive cunts, if anyone from Software is watching this, if you're going to put out any more patches, can we get one that lets us warp from any lantern to any other lantern? Thanks. Because at the moment, we still have to warp to the hub level between worlds before you can go anywhere else, and if you're farming for blood echoes or grinding out blood vials and bullets, this is going to piss you off very quickly. Seriously, you managed to patch the loading times, patch this too, you lazy cunts. Anyway, moving on. Let's step away from gameplay for a minute. Difficult, I know, as gameplay is the best part of Bloodborne. Oh, really? Gameplay is the best part of a video game. Mind fucking blown. And talk about the plot instead. Much like Dark Souls, your level of involvement in the plot is basically up to you. Maybe you'll wonder why everyone in Yharnam is turning into twisted, fucked up abominations. Or maybe you won't. With that said, it's the world that really tells the story of Bloodborne. From the gothic architecture to the cluttered streets of central Yharnam, the burnt-out husk of old Yharnam, and the detailed winding path of Yahar Ghul, they all come together to tell the whole story. Combining the environmental storytelling with the lore hidden in the item descriptions and the sparse but insightful dialogue of some NPCs you can meet throughout your journey, piecing it all together allows the player to unravel the mysteries of Yharnam, the Healing Church, and the Great Ones. Or you could just push all that business off a fucking cliff and only follow Bloodborne's initial instructions of go out and kill things until we tell you to stop. As I said, your level of involvement in the plot is up to you. Now on to more of my niggling gripes. The level layout can be a little fucked. okay, in some areas it can be a lot fucked. The earlier levels, like Central Yarnum for example, had me saying, where the fuck am I, on a fairly regular basis. Which usually led into a thank fucking Christ when I found a dead end, because it meant I could go around and try one of the other seemingly identical alleys I had just passed. However, this is something of a nitpick that lessens over time as you slowly learn to pick out hidden paths and shortcuts in the environment, which now I think about it may have been the entire reason Central Yarnum was so unintuitively designed in the first place. To organically train the player to do just that, knowing FromSoft that's probably exactly what they did. But I'm still keeping it in there as a gripe. Intentional or not, it doesn't change the fact that attempting to navigate Central Yarnum for the first time is more irritating than having chickenpox on your nutsack. Finally, let's talk about boss monsters, which are one of the big draw in most of From Software's games in terms of challenge. Which is not to say that the standard enemies can't completely and utterly fuck your shit up, because they most certainly can. Remember, this is a From Software game, and being a From Software game, everything in Yarnum wants to kill you, and is perfectly capable of doing just that. And bully for them too, because they'll likely have killed you the better part of 1,000 fucking times before all said and done. Even taking that into account, it's still the bosses that are far and away the reason you're going to die the most. Your first time fighting a boss will likely proceed as thus. Walk in the front door and almost immediately have your character's internal organs along with your character themselves reduced to a fine red paste. Which, if you've been getting overconfident on mobs, as you sometimes do, will swiftly remind you that the game is not fucking around and of your place in its pecking order. Somewhere below Ratchet, but slightly above Orphans. This humility pain train will just keep on happening again and again as you bang your head against the seemingly insurmountable wall that is the boss, occasionally broken up with trips back to earlier areas to restock your bullet and blood vial supplies like some sort of strange reverse Santa Claus. But as time goes on, you'll find your frustration give way as you begin to fight the boss on even terms and then even begin to exceed them, until you enter the zone, a state of almost supernatural hyper-awareness, and begin executing pixel-perfect dodges, then punishing the boss with perfectly placed counters until it's nothing more than a red stain upon the upholstery. I'm not gonna lie here, when you reach the zone in combat against the boss, you feel like the goddamn Batman, and it is amazing. Then when you finally overcome the seemingly insurmountable odds and kill the bastard, it gives you a sense of catharsis and contentment far superior to finding true love or holding your firstborn child for the first time. In case it's not clear, I really like Bloodborne, and as such I feel it would be remiss of me not to mention my issues with it. With that said, all my problems, even taken together, are hardly any form of deal breaker. Because Bloodborne is deep, atmospheric, engrossing, and just really fun, and if you let it, then Bloodborne will suck you in like some sort of potential Japanese sex monster. But most of all, it provides the catharsis I crave from challenging games. And not just because it lets me stave off the voices for another few days.